Well, hello again. This is Jack Sheffield, Jack the exam guy, telling you don't let anybody tell you you don't need know Jack. That's right. Now you do. And I'm gonna teach you a little bit about the psychrometric chart today. This is a very interesting chart that shows the relationship between your wet bulb, your dry bulb, your relative humidity, your humidity ratio, they call it, grains of moisture per pound of dry air is another way to say that, your dew point, and something called enthalpy. Okay, basically, you will be given two values of the above, and you can determine the values of the others. All right, so you chart two of these, you'll see where they intersect, and then you can read everything else from there. It's actually very simple. You don't really have to know anything about air conditioning or the properties of air to get this information correct. If you do, it helps a little bit. And, if you're in this business, it would be nice to know a little bit about the psychrometric chart in case it came up. Yeah. You'll get one or two questions probably on the psychrometric chart, where you'll have to figure these out. And now you'll know how to do that. They're really, the mystery will be taken completely out of it by the time that you're done with this little video. So, I do want you to go to page 1047 and 1048 in what we call Big Blue. That's the Refrigeration Air Conditioning Technology Manual. The chart is on page 1047, and then if you'll look on page 1048, you'll see that it tells you exactly how to plot things. So if you forget exactly how to plot something, you can use page 1048 to help you out. Okay, so for instance, wet bulb is plotted at an angle, dry bulb is plotted vertically, dew point is plotted horizontally, and relative humidity is on these is on the round sort of curved axis. So we'll take a look. Okay, so let's talk about the wet bulb. The wet bulb, you're going to read the wet bulb along this axis right here. Okay, so this is the numbers where you're going to read it. And keep in mind, each one of these lines is 1. Okay, so 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60. Sometimes I've actually been confused by that. Every now and then I'll get that wrong and think that each one's 2, but it's actually each line is 1. So this is the wet bulb, and we read it along here. And the wet bulb is plotted at an angle like so. Okay, so if you were to plot a 65 wet bulb, you're going to plot it like this. Okay, just draw your little line like that. And now we're going to look at dry bulb. Okay, dry bulb is plotted along this bottom axis right here, this bottom scale. Okay, so here we go. We go all along here. This is where we're going to plot it, and we plot the dry bulb. It tells you on page 1048. We plot it vertically. All right. So here we go. So if somebody told us, I'm having a hard time seeing this, 78, 80, what's that, 82? It's a little glare. You might have heard the crow in the background. I'm on the back porch doing this, so I got a little bit of glare, so I'm having a little hard time seeing this. So this is 80, 81, 82. So if they told us it was 82 on the dry and 65 on the wet, we would plot our dry this way. We would plot our wet bulb this way. And guess what? Now we can read everything we need to know. So this is our relative humidity. Okay, so we'll go on to the next slide. And this one's not quite as pretty a line, but I'm sure you can deal with that. Here we go. So this is our relative humidity, right? So that's 10, 20, 30, 40. So we know under those circumstances of a 65 wet and an 82 dry, our relative humidity will be right at 40%. Okay, so that's how you plot your relative humidity, like so. And now you have dew point. We're going to talk about dew point and then humidity ratio. Okay, now they're plotted horizontally. All right. Now you may have seen psychrometric charts that have a dew point out here, and that's okay. And you can read dew point like that if you've got that psychrometric chart, but you aren't going to have one in the exam unless you happen, hello, Mr. Crow, unless you happen to have a um, a sheet in one of your manuals that you're not supposed to have probably. But anyway, so you don't need that though, because you don't need to try to put an extra psychrometric chart in there that's got a dew point on there, because you can read the dew point, you just have to know how to do it. So dew point and humidity ratio, okay, are plotted horizontally. So we go from where these two meet. You don't have to plot the relative humidity to know that, because you've already got wet bulb and dry bulb. Or sometimes they'll give you relative humidity and wet bulb, or any two. They can give you any two options, all right, any two parameters. You plot them, and then you can get everything else from there. It's really pretty simple. So what we do is we go to get our dew point, we go horizontally, and we see, boom, there we go, 55. Under these circumstances, our dew point would be 55, and then our humidity ratio would be somewhere around, what is that? Like I said, I got a little glare. I want to make sure I give you the right. So somewhere around 65, right? Yeah, no big deal. Now, the interesting thing is, what can be a little confusing, is you plot your wet bulb and your dew point on this same axis here. You just have to realize that the wet bulb you plot at an angle, and your dew point you plot horizontally. Okay, and then you've got pounds of moisture per pound of dry air over here. You're probably not going to use that. And then you've got the enthalpy over here. This is enthalpy right there, and it tells you right there at the top what that is. So here we go. We got our enthalpy right there. Okay, let's see where we're at. There we go. Enthalpy. That's right there. And so we've got the dry bulb at 85 and the wet bulb at 70. My girlfriend just came out. I'm recording, baby. I'll ask you later. Okay. And so we got our dry bulb at 85, our wet bulb at 70. What are the relative humidity and humidity ratio and dew point and enthalpy? Okay, so see if you can figure all that out. You can hit the dew point. You can hit the pause button if you like, and we'll and you can just come on back and see if you got it right. Sure. Okay, here we go. So we plotted our wet bulb at 65, excuse me. I got to look at this better. Our wet bulb is at 70. There we go. So we got 70 for our wet bulb. All right. Once again, I got a little glare on my screen here. And then we plotted our dry bulb at 85. Okay, and boom, we got that right there is where they meet. Okay, so let's see. The first thing we want is the relative humidity. So we know that's not on that line, it's not on this line, so you know what we got to do. We got 40 here, we got 50 here, so it's probably somewhere like 46, 47, right? Here we go, right in there, yeah, about 46, there we go. And then we're looking for our humidity ratio, which is going to be over here. And and the dew point. So we ended up with our dew point over here about 63, okay, 61, 62, 63. We ended up with our humidity ratio over here, which was somewhere around 86, 70, 80, 82, 4, 5, 2, 4, 6, yeah, about 86. And then if we carry this on out, we'll see our enthalpy is about 34. Okay, so you just carry that line straight on out. And then you might even realize, now hold on a second, with our enthalpy, we don't even need anything else except for the dew point. Yeah, we can plot the enthalpy with just the dew point. And that might make things a little quicker as you go along. If they're asking you for enthalpy, they give you two parameters and they ask you for the enthalpy, you don't have to plot everything. You just have to plot just the wet bulb. There you go. Okay, grains of moisture per pound of dry air is 60, and your relative humidity is 50. And why don't you give this one a shot as well? Hit the pause button, and then come on back and see how you did. Okay, so here we go. We plotted our grains of moisture per pound of dry air at 60. We said our relative humidity was 50, so we're right here. Okay, so we go everywhere else we need to go from right there. There we go. We came on up for our dew point. What did we get? 68. Good. And then we got our, excuse me, it was our wet bulb. Our wet bulb at 68. Our dry bulb at 82. Our dew point at, right at, what was that, 51? Oh, excuse me. Got that glare. 45, 50, 55. Is it just a little bit over 60, it looks like. Yeah, there you go. Right at 60 for our dew point. And then we've got our enthalpy. We just carry this on up there. And we've got about 32.5, that neighborhood right there. Okay, well, you know, so you're an expert at this now. You can do this. It's only 1 or 2 questions, but hey, I talk to people all the time to get a 70 or a 71 or a 72, and 1 or 2 questions make a difference. So make sure that you can do this. Now I'm going to go a little bit further and give you a challenging question, the psychrometric challenging question. This one is a little bit more difficult. And I'd like for you to understand how to do this. It's not super hard, but it is definitely something that you want to be able to do. Okay, so let's say this: the first readings the technician took when they went into the house were 85 dry and 70 wet. Well, what we want to do is we aim to get the conditions to 68 dry and 66 wet, and then what we want to know is what will the change in the enthalpy be. Okay, so we just use our psychrometric chart. So if you want to try this, you can go ahead and do that and see if you can get the right answer, and hit that pause button and come on back. Otherwise, we'll go ahead and plot these. So we got our 85 dry, excuse me, our 85 dry. We have our 70 wet, so we're right here. Okay, that's 1. Remember, we didn't even really need to do the dry on this because we're looking for a change in enthalpy, so we can just really do the wet bulb. And then we do the same thing here. We plot our 68 dry. Go ahead and plot it. What the heck? 68 dry and 66 wet. Okay, and then so you have, this is our enthalpy for our first reading. When we want to bring the parameters down to here. So what's the difference? Yeah, no big deal, right? We just take the 34, we subtract the 31, and the answer is 3. Okay, you're going to possibly get a question like this, so you want to be able to do it. It's no big deal. As far as a standard type psychrometric question, you are almost guaranteed to get at least 1. Know how to do it, and know a little bit about it in the real world, so that somebody pops one of these out, it's not the first time you've ever seen one. You've been listening to Jack Sheffield, Jack the Exam Guy. I would love for you to pass this exam the first time and tell your friends how great of an experience you had, and I'll see you soon. Don't let anybody tell you you don't know Jack.